Hey, what's happening, guys? How are you all doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today I want to talk a little bit about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch OLED. Now, of course, yesterday was a huge day because we finally got to see some real, legitimate gameplay for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's something we've all been waiting for a very long time. This game was revealed almost 4 years ago, and we've only seen a handful of teasers and trailers, and within those teasers, we've only seen a little bit of gameplay. So finally getting 10 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay from AG Aonuma was very exciting, and I did cover it on my video yesterday, kind of breaking down my reactions and what I thought of the gameplay, what I took away from it. And without spending too much time on it, I'll just say that while there's a couple of things I'm still wanting to know more about, overall, I felt great about it. I'm very excited. I loved what I saw. The new mechanics are extremely exciting. I am so ready to explore the skies of Hyrule. I just can't even freaking, stand it. I'm so excited for everything that they seem to be introducing with the sky and the traversal of the sky. But of course, beyond the gameplay, we know at the very end of that, they did confirm and reveal the long-rumored and also long-leaked Nintendo Switch OLED Tears of the Kingdom Edition, while also showing us that there's going to be a Zelda carrying case for the Switch, as well as a Pro Controller. Now, I do want to say, before we dive any more into this, that I am, of course, trying to push past 20,000 subscribers. I am very close. I am less than 200 subscribers away, which is very exciting. Again, I do not plan on reminding you guys of my sub goal in every video going forward. This is just a temporary thing until I hopefully get pushed past that 20,000 subscriber mark. So again, this is not a long-term thing that I plan on putting at the beginning of every video, but for now, I do just want to let you know I am very, very close. Of course, if you are new to the channel through this video and you seem to like what I'm doing and how I present my conversations, then I sure hope you consider subscribing to the channel to help me push past that 20,000 goal sooner than later. So, the Zelda Switch OLED. Pretty curious, pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's a very cool, sleek-looking Switch. I love all of the Hyrule Zelda-like designs, especially on the dock. Actually, the Joy-Cons are certainly very cool, but I'm less excited about the Joy-Cons and really just feel like the dock is what looks really pretty sweet. Of course, as we discussed, this was leaked many, many months ago, and I covered it on a video, and tons of other YouTubers and folks covered that as well. And I was definitely like 50-50, this could very easily be faked, but it also seems like it could be kind of real. It certainly made a lot of sense for Nintendo to have a new Switch version or a Switch OLED available for Tears of the Kingdom, their biggest game of the year, very likely their last big game for the Nintendo Switch before introducing their next generation console. Just theory and speculation, but it is something that I think is very likely true, and I think a lot of you guys are starting to feel the same thing as well. So, of course, they would probably have a new version of the Switch alongside of their biggest game. Now, because of the possible next-gen situation Switch 2 around the corner, again, we are completely in speculation and theorizing and guessing territory, okay? So, longtime viewers, you guys know that. I love to talk about this stuff. I've been predicting and theorizing about this for a very long time. So we're not talking fact. The whole purpose of this conversation is to discuss this within the guess of what if next-gen Switch 2 is around the corner, right? So, continuing down that line of thinking, if the next-gen Switch 2 is around the corner, either at the end of this year or sometime early on in 2024 that we would see it revealed, I think that what we might be seeing with the Switch OLED, and this is going to sound really crazy to really wrap your mind around, but I think this is probably the last new Switch that Nintendo will ever be making. Now, of course, if this is even true, it's worth noting that it's the Switch OLED itself, that design of the Nintendo Switch and that architecture and that build, the new screen, all of the things introduced with the Switch OLED back in 2021, that is really the actual device that would be the last new device of the Switch family Nintendo will have made. But even since the Switch OLED has come out, we've seen a lot of different themed version of Switches, right? We've seen a Pokemon Switch OLED, we've seen a Splatoon 3 Switch OLED, we now have the Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED coming up in just less than 2 months here. Actually, sorry, less than 1 month, because the Switch OLED is releasing at the end of April, which is now only 1 month away. And so we've seen a few versions of the Switch OLED get branded and themed to match the release of a big new game. And so because Nintendo likes to do this stuff, and the Zelda Switch OLED is going to be the newest one, and because, per the theory and conversation we're kind of going with in this video, because a lot of us think that the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom might be the swan song big title for the Switch before they get ready to reveal the Switch 2 or their next-gen console, I think it stands to reason that this Zelda-themed Switch OLED is probably the last new Nintendo Switch that is just a Nintendo Switch Nintendo will ever create and market and sell to us. Now, for what it's worth, just speaking for myself, I am not at all interested in the Switch OLED, the Zelda Switch OLED. Even the Switch OLED itself never really interested me. I still have not purchased one. I am still playing on my day one launch basic-ass Nintendo Switch, right? It's the same one that I bought on March 17th of 2017, over 6 years ago, right? Now, my wife does have the Animal Crossing Nintendo Switch, which is, again, just a regular Switch. It's not a Switch OLED or a Switch Lite. And that came out, what was that, March 2020, I think, when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out. So she herself has that. So those are the only two Switches in our households. One for me, one for my wife. They're both regular Switches, no OLEDs here. And so even though I'm so excited for Tears of the Kingdom, and I even think the design of this Zelda Switch OLED is super, super cool, it's just not interesting to me. I just don't really care about the whole Switch OLED thing. But as I've been discussing for a few years, and as we've seen a lot of other people start to discuss in the past 5 or 6 months as well, if the Switch 2 is really going to be revealed in the next 6 to 12 months, let's say, it's worth noting that Nintendo knows things are going to be slowing down. In fact, sales of the Switch overall have been slowing down. Now, the Zelda-themed Switch OLED will almost for sure boost Switch hardware sales up a little bit, but is it going to be enough to make a significant dent or a significant impact? Tough to say this early, but I kind of doubt that it will. I really think we just have to pay attention to what's been happening with the Switch, and I think Nintendo is, of course, very aware because they are a very smart, savvy company. And so if Switch sales are slowing, and you're only going to get so much of a rejuvenation from releasing a new version along with your biggest game this year, at some point, you have to start making room for the new console or the reveal of the new console, right? Which feeds into the theory of maybe they're going to reveal it at the end of this year. And so that's why, according to this kind of guess or prediction, I think that Nintendo realizes Zelda was or is potentially their last opportunity to sell the world one final new version of the Switch to add to your collections, right? Because to Nintendo's credit, and to the design of the Switch's credit, it is the kind of device that very much welcomes itself to multiple purchases. Again, even our household is a great example where both my wife and I have one, so we are a 2-Switch household ourselves. Tons of people have more than one Switch, either if they're collecting for themselves, if they're just buying for friends and family they live with. A lot of people with kids probably have, each of their kids might have their own Nintendo Switch. I mean, I'm just guessing, but it is a very smart design for the Switch when you consider how much it lends itself to people buying more than one. And I think that's part of the reason it's sold as well as it has. And so with a game and a series as popular as Zelda, Nintendo would have been stupid not to make another Switch OLED, because I don't even necessarily think that the Zelda-themed Switch OLED is meant to be sold to people as their first Switch, not over 6 years into the life of the Switch. Maybe at the beginning or like a couple of years in, but I think at this point, the vast, vast, vast majority of people who will buy Switch OLEDs will be people who already have Switches. I don't think it's going to be everyone who buys one, but I do think it's going to be probably most, maybe even half. And even if it's half, I still think that's very significant. And so I think that this is meant to kind of help with the marketing and the hype for Tears of the Kingdom, but it's also just Nintendo realizing if we're going to get any last dollars out of people before we finally move into the Switch 2, and if we want to do anything we can to boost hardware sales in 2023, where, again, according to the theory we're going on in this video, where we're also going to end the year with the reveal of a new console, well, let's do it this way. Biggest new game in Zelda, Zelda-themed Switch OLED, people are going to buy it. It might be some people's 4th Switch that they end up buying, whatever. Everyone's going to buy the $70 Zelda game, the first time they're doing that. That's a different controversy I've talked about before. And so whether you agree with it or not, or see it as consumer friendly or anti-consumer, I mean, I don't really know. I'm not trying to necessarily go down that part of the conversation. I just wanted to kind of bring up to you guys and discuss what I think is part of their business plan with the Switch OLED, is that it really just becomes the last Switch I think Nintendo will make. I can't imagine any other themed Switches being released after this, and I think that the time for the Switch Pro has long since passed. At this point, it's all about the Switch 2. Just my opinion and my prediction. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. Zelda comes out, it's a huge deal, it's a big hit, it sells 20, 30 million copies or whatever, and then it's all about the Switch 2. Yes, and Pikmin 4, very excited for Pikmin 4, and maybe Metroid Prime 4 at the end of the year, so that changes everything if that actually does happen. But let's not talk about Metroid Prime 4, we're talking Zelda, and then Nintendo moves into Switch 2 stuff. They're going to sell a bunch of copies of Zelda, they're going to sell a bunch of these Zelda Switch OLEDs, and then make way for the next big thing. So that's just my thought, and I think it's interesting for us to wrap our head around the idea and the guess of if this Zelda Switch OLED will be the last Switch Nintendo ever makes.